The party's over 17 days that supposedly changed the country, but what next? Joining me is Daniel Moylan, Chair of the London Legacy Development Corporation, and Neil Stanhope, Director of branding agency Underscore. My thanks to both of you. Daniel, let me kick it off with you. You are directly accountable to Londoners to prove that this has been worthwhile. Very quickly, what are you going to do with this?
Well, already that park, Axel, has been transformed from being a rubbish tip a few years ago into being the fantastic sporting space that we've seen over the last 2 weeks, with at least 2 million people out there enjoying it, maybe 4 billion people throughout the globe getting familiar with it. We now have to take that transformation and make it even better, so that we're actually going to be putting in great landscaping. We're going to be taking out the temporary venues. We'll be improving the venues that remain. We'll be starting to develop the residential accommodation there, the athletes' village. People should be moving into that next year. And we've got other residential development coming along, and there's commercial space to build out there as well. So it's going to be a fantastic place.
Will we see a return on the £9 billion?
You'll certainly see a return. I'm not an economist, and there are lots of people who've done economic calculations. There are lots of people who've done economic calculations about what return we're going to get. But we are going to get a fantastic transformation, not only of the park, but also, and you can see it happening already, of the wider area here. And there will be jobs, there will be homes for people, and that, I think, really is what matters, rather than some abstruse economic calculations that I certainly can't follow. Other people may be more comfortable with them, but I think what people are actually interested in is jobs and homes, and that's what we're delivering, together with great sporting venues and a fantastic park.
Neil, let me bring you in here, because I know your company, your business, has worked on the regeneration of Alexandra Palace. It's a smaller project, of course, but what is Daniel's biggest challenge, would you say?
I think his biggest challenge is going to be proving to all of the naysayers, and there were plenty of those before the Olympics took place, that all of this is deliverable. But as the Olympics has just proven, we are now a country that can show people that we really can deliver.
So you're optimistic?
I am.
From a branding perspective, and we talked about this just before the interview, what does this have to do with branding? But actually, I think it's the attitude and it's the feeling that's been generated. You're optimistic that can be, we can see some revenue as a result of that?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think the revenue side of it is difficult to prove, and I think foresight is something that I think we all wish that we had. But I think ultimately, the country and Stratford is going in the right direction.
Well, what can Daniel do to ensure that feeling lives on?
Well, I think we could do a lot worse than articulate the new values that we've got in terms of punching above our weight and the positivity that's come out of the Games. And I think if we can communicate that into a roadmap that works alongside the business plan that these guys have got, then we should be onto something quite tangible that you can measure against.
What are your biggest hurdles, Daniel? What do you feel you're up against most? What worries you most?
Actually, I don't have very many worries, because I'm absolutely convinced, for example, that the residential side of the site will be built out in the course of time, because there is a great demand for homes in London. We don't have enough homes, and that housing will be built out. I'm convinced the commercial side, the office properties, the office buildings will be built out in due course, because while there's a great lull in demand for office space at the moment, when it comes back, these buildings, the foundations are already in, and they will be the first buildings to go up. I'm sure the sporting venues, most of the sporting venues, will attract a huge use, not only for competitions and tournaments, but also they're open to the public. And I think, just take the BMX track that we're building. I mean, people have seen that over the last few weeks. They are going to be out there wanting to use it. The swimming pool, we're expecting 800,000 visits a year from ordinary families, from local families coming in here.
The Greeks and
I think we will do that.
Expect the same?
I have no idea what the Greeks and the Australians expected.
But
I was talking only this afternoon. I was talking to the chairman of the Sydney Olympic Park Authority, who's been over here for the Games. They have achieved a lot, but they started their process later than us. They weren't building in a place which has the most fantastic transport hub in London sitting next door to it. They were at the end of one branch line on a railway. They hadn't thought it all through, and they are only now getting round, in many cases, to doing things that we are doing. So we've learnt from them, and we're trying to build on that, and I think they acknowledge that. This is not being critical of Australia at all. But we've tried to learn from their successes and their failures and the speed at which we're doing things. But we're all moving in roughly the same direction.
What, Neil, what have been the, again, from a branding perspective, but an attitude and a positive feeling, who have been the winners of this and who would you say have been the losers? Actually, let's start with the losers.
Of the games?
Yeah, of the games, and what has been created here over the past few years.
I think 1 year ago we were looking at ourselves as Broken Britain, and now we're all looking at ourselves as Team GB. I think.
If we sink into a triple dip recession, we won't look at ourselves as Broken Britain again as a result of this.
Well, we've shown that we can punch above our weight. There's not a lot we can do about the global economy, apart from face it head on, like we did with the challenge for the games, and meet it as best we can.
Who were the winners and losers for you?
Well, I don't think G4S was a winner, to be perfectly frank. But apart from that,
the ticketing system, they weren't winners, but I think barring that, everybody else was.
Ticketing system, I think, actually was probably, not very popular, but probably was a winner at getting in huge numbers of people. I mean, actually, they sold far more tickets.
The initial allocation, possibly.
I agree. You could talk about all of that. I think that was sort of 50-50. I think, on the whole, it's very hard to think of people who have lost from this. And it's strange, actually, you're the only person so far since the games ended, or indeed for weeks, who's actually started talking about triple dip recessions. I don't know, is that the top of your mind? Not top of my mind. Is it top of your mind? I think that's what the nation's thinking about at the moment.
We were talking about it a month ago.
It's a sort of press obsession, really, isn't it?
Well, perhaps.
Triple dip
I'm playing it devil's advocate a little bit here as well.
But for now,
it might happen, but actually everyone feels positive, and we've shown what we can achieve. And I think we have the same positive attitude towards what we can achieve in the park. And I have people who are really interested in this. What I don't have is people coming up saying, well, you're going to fail, aren't you? I mean, nobody's saying that.
Even the Spice Girls said it last night.
Oh, the Spice Girls.
All we need is positivity.
How are the Spice
that is
Girls
the
for you,
sort
Dave?
of endorsement. I think that it's amazing how age does not sully them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think age has passed them by.
Okay, let me finish up. Actually, let me ask you this: Boris Johnson for Prime Minister, has he got the support behind him as a result of this to make something like that happen?
I don't think he's given 2 minutes thought to that over the last 2 weeks, because what you really need to understand about Boris, he's been elected and recently re-elected to represent London, and he identifies totally with Londoners. These are the London 2012 Games, and he is the mayor who has gone out there and spoken for Londoners and identified and acted up for Londoners. Yeah, and there's a bit of showmanship about Boris, we all know that. Nothing wrong with that. And he's done all that, and everybody else, every reporter keeps asking, is this because he wants to be Prime Minister? I think it's actually primarily because he wants to be the mayor for Londoners, the Londoners who voted for him in May. He might want to be Prime Minister too, but I don't think that's got anything to do with what he's been doing over the last fortnight.
No, but I think he was the perfect mayor for these games, wasn't he? Brand Boris has actually been helped.
Brand Boris has been helped, but Brand Boris doesn't necessarily mean it's Brand Boris for Prime Minister.
No,
there are other things Brand Boris can do. I've always thought of Brand Boris the perfume.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would fly off the shelf.
Very quickly, Daniel, lasting memory for you from this.
The Cauldron.
The Cauldron?
Both going up and coming down. One of the most beautiful and moving things I've ever seen.
The volunteers all at every single medal ceremony.
Okay, Neil Stanhope, Director at Underscore, my thanks to you. Daniel Moylan, Chair of the London Legacy Development Corps, best of luck to you with all of this. I'm sure it'll be a grand success. Thanks very much indeed. That's it from me. Plenty ahead on Reuters. I'm Axel Threlfall.